talk about presentations before? Anyone? It's a few people, but most people haven't. So I'll do a quick 5-minute what is presentation Zen. And you know the folks at McKinsey, of course, make a lot of money with their advice. They sell nothing that you can touch. It's just words and ideas. And so they put it very well that presentation skill is sort of a killer skill that we can take into the business world. It isn't everything. It's one thing. But it's an important thing that can really make a difference. So we know that communication matters, but we have a problem, don't we? If you've ever seen a bad presentation, maybe you've had a similar feeling to death by PowerPoint. Has anyone ever experienced death by PowerPoint? Raise your hand. Then what are you doing here? It's impossible. So I think who's committed death by PowerPoint? Should be. We all have, of course, at one time or another. And these are actual slides by actual people trying to actually communicate. But these didn't work. So this is what we're trying to avoid, this idea of standing in the back of the room and going through slides and going on and on and on. And there's lots of scientific research, actually, in the cognitive sciences, cognitive load theory and so on, that says this doesn't work. It's never worked, and it's really a bad idea. So I'd like to hear from you. Usually if we did a seminar situation, we would break out and you would make a list. But let's just shout out your answers. Think about the best presentation you've ever seen. It's fun to think about the bad ones first. So think about the worst presentation you've ever seen, not including today. And why was it bad? From the visuals to the delivery to the preparation, whatever. Just shout it out. What are your reasons? I'll repeat them if others can't hear. Just give me an example. Bad presentation that you've seen. Don't name the person. Don't say, my wife. No, don't say that. Bad presentation.
Like bullet list over clip art.
Okay, bullet list, lots of bullets and clip art, right? What else? Too much text on the slide. Just reading slides, right? What else?
Unnecessary.
No point, right? Having no point. Oh. Brilliant, yes.
Unnecessary animation.
And unnecessary animation or movement, right? What else?
Bad color contrast.
Okay, bad color combinations and maybe bad contrast or lack of contrast or salience, foreground, background, that kind of thing. Not just visuals, but what else? Just shout it out.
People facing the screen.
People facing the screen, is that common in Japan? Have you seen that? You face the screen, and then the voice goes, and then you come back. Okay, so we've all seen bad ones. Think about the good ones then. Best presentation you've ever seen. What made it so good? Go ahead. It's engaging somehow. For example, asking questions of the audience is always good. What else? There's a story to it. Maybe stories, examples, or one big story. The presenter what? Is naked? What?
The person who presents,
Enthusiasm. Okay, enthusiasm. I mean, you could say charismatic, but we're not all, I think we all are charismatic, but it isn't just a natural thing. We all can get better. But somehow you felt connected, as the woman said. There's a connection. There's that charisma, which we all have, to some degree or another, came out. What else? The good ones that you've seen.
Pacing.
There's a sense of pacing to it. Not too fast, not too slow. It's a Goldilocks, right? Got to be just right. Very much conversational, right? What else? The great ones you've seen. Maybe you haven't seen a lot of great ones, right? Okay, so what we want to see, of course, in the presentation are the things that you've said. We want to see a point. We want to see, a message. We want clarity. We want meaning, and we want great content. This is a given. Of course, this is what we want. But what do we get? All too often, we get confusion and boredom, and we have a sense that we've wasted time. Have you ever felt that you've wasted time in a presentation? Or listening to a presentation? Maybe Ron doing a presentation, right? Okay, so we don't want to do something like this. We want to try to avoid, this is what you're talking about with the bullet list, feedback also. And we don't want to do this bulleted list kind of thing, or this kind of thing where we put a lot of text, actual presentation in Tokyo. So we want to avoid death by PowerPoint, and we know that this doesn't work. We know it, but we still do it. So audiences always, when you're an audience member, we know I don't want to do that when I'm up on stage, but we do it anyway, right? Because it's not easy. So something must be done to avoid this sort of death by PowerPoint and to avoid this kind of clutter on the screen and the bullet points, which of course are very standard, but they don't really work. This is a old Steve Ballmer slide. Many of you will know Steve. I'm not going to show him dancing around. That's tomorrow. It's a different presentation. This actual Steve Ballmer presentation slide. So I sort of use Microsoft and Apple to contrast, but Microsoft is improving. And of course, I'm actually a big fan of Bill Gates, not his software, but Bill Gates, the man and the philanthropist. But it's one way to sort of contrast. So if you look at a Jobs presentation, and some of them are quite technical. The audience is full of developers and other technical folks, but his visuals are quite simple, right? Maybe a quote, maybe a table, because it's hard to see that much on the screen. And if we read on the screen, we can't listen to him at the same time. Now, I thought if Darth Vader did a presentation, it would be sort of the death by PowerPoint variety of presentation, right? And compare and contrast this with Yoda. How would it look differently if Yoda did a presentation? I thought it'd be more like this. An empty screen filled with possibilities. You see the difference? Very didactic, talk down, very open, naked, front and center, right? So that's a contrast. But you might say, what's Zen got to do with it, right? I mean, what is the, Doyu Kanke, right? Well, I use Zen, I guess, more in the field or more in the sense of analogy. It's analogous to the world of Zen. And many of you, of course, have studied Zen, as I have since I was a high school student studying many of the Zen arts. But what I really mean is simplicity. So what is simplicity? It's hard to define. It's many kinds of things, actually. But I like to think of it in terms of achievement of maximum effect with a minimum of means. So the ultimate sort of less is more. Of course, less is more is too simplistic of an idea of what is simplicity, but for our purposes right now, think of it that way. Always try to cut out the superfluous and the non-essential as much as we can. Of course, it ain't easy to do that, and this goes back some 500 years, right? Simplicity is hard. All right, but it is the ultimate sophistication if we can pull it off. So these are three key ideas that run through the book and run through the blog and run through sort of my idea of visuals and delivery of presentation. And that is restraint, simplicity, and naturalness. Right? A restraint in the preparation stage. We can't do everything. You've got 20 minutes. You've got to decide what's important and let go of the rest for the time being. And of course, simplicity in design. It doesn't only mean less is more, but see how you can cut out some of the stuff. Because remember, you're going to be talking, and people can't read, for example, and listen well at the same time. And then, of course, naturalness. A naturalness of delivery. I love to point to Steve Jobs because there's a real conversational manner that he has. And we've had some great presenters here. I mentioned Jasper and Darren and Daniel, but they just stand out. There are many others. I remember Daniel's, for example, just very, very, you're kind of like the Steve Jobs of train design, right? He was very, very connected. It was very, very engaging. And the hour just goes by like that. And you wouldn't think a presentation about trains and in the design of trains would be so interesting. But people lose track of time because it's more of a conversation. So just remember this: restraint, simplicity, naturalness. It's not a panacea, but it's a beginning way to start looking at presentations in a little bit different way. When I say Zenesthetic, what comes to mind? Shout out. What do you think? What does it mean to you? Integrity? So empty space, but dynamic empty space, not passive empty space or by accident empty space. And I liked your word too, integrity, right? Which to me, maybe it means something different to you, but to me it sort of means the opposite of decoration. To me, decoration is not something that has a lot of integrity. It's not bad necessarily. And these two guys are actual, real, famous designers. Wouldn't you know it? Anything else? What comes to mind? Zenesthetic. We all live in Japan. It's everywhere. Symmetry or balance. Yes, so I was going to say, or balance asymmetry, which is more common. How about this store? Is there Zen in here? Maybe if it were a hospital. I don't know. It's not bad. Right, so there are many, many things. But simplicity, again, clarity, unclutteredness, the opposite of decoration.